Some of the most fundamental aspects of what we call reality are space and time. We see time on the clock flowing very sequentially, and we see space very rigid, very well defined as we defined it in miles or kilometers or meters or inches. And this is very rigid. As scientists went deeper into reality, they found that, in fact, even space and time are relative and depends on the speed at which you are going. And this is not a fantasy. This is something that has been evidence-based, calculated, measured, and tried through satellite functions and through different realities, which is based on, as we know, some of the Einstein's general and special relativity theories that even define gravity in terms of space-time continuum and space-time geometry, and so that space and time are actually connected. As scientists delve deeper into nature, they find that it's not atoms that make reality, but atoms themselves are made out of elementary particles, and the elementary particles are made out of themselves vibrations, fluctuations of fields, and the fields of different forces, with 4 different major forces: the weak, the strong, the gravitational, and the electromagnetic force. And gradually, as they looked deeper into nature, they found more and more unifying values, and these forces are more and more unified to such an extent that today we have a theory of a unified field that is the source of all that is on the surface. So there is actually one field, that is what scientists contemplate, to be the source of all what we see, and that the expressions of this field are vibrations that lead to appearance of atoms and molecules and cells and the body and the nervous system and the environment and society and the whole thing. In the ancient Vedic knowledge, this is the same reality that is being described as there is one field of consciousness, Satchit Ananda, a field of pure being, of pure self, that manifests in the reality of life as all the different expressions. And there is the notion of Maya, which says that everything on the outside is an illusion. Now, this notion of Maya has been actually misinterpreted in some ways, because people think that the illusions that we see on the outside is like really the illusions that we have in the dream. And to some extent, it is true, because our nervous system, our ability to see things, is limited with the limitation of our perception, which means we see only light from red to violet. We don't see infrared, we don't see ultraviolet, except if we use instruments. We don't see the workings of the atoms and the molecules, except if we use a microscope. And even if we go deeper, these are things that we don't have even instruments to analyze, but the scientists have found quantum fields that are completely different than the reality that we seem to assume on the surface level, in which actually particles can be at different places at the same time, that the consciousness of the observer collapses what appears to be the wave function, which is the probability of having a particle in different places, and that there is an interaction between the observer, the process of observation, and the object being observed. These things are baffling scientists, and they are making really the scientists open their awareness to realities that they have never imagined before.